from his apartment, it's the Serg Podcast, starring Sergio Santana.
I don't wanna hurt nobody, I just came to vibe. Tonight we ain't with no drama, tell them take it outside.
With tonight's guest,
Shorty and her friends been looking for a while, tell them come and vibe.
Now here's your host,
Disappear for a little, find a place to hide. Forget the problems, man. Gotta put the stress aside.
Santana.
So our first guest tonight is comedian Sidney Gantt. Make some noise for him. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah. I appreciate it, man. It looks like you got what's that collection of knives behind you, or what's that behind you?
No, those are medals. Those are jiu-jitsu medals.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, they are medals. Like, oh my, it looked like knives for a second. That's actually the straps.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's dope.
Yeah.
Dope.
I like it because it kind of looks like Nazi propaganda. Like if you just glance at it, it's like, whoa, what was that?
What's going on? And yeah, I had to address it like right away because at first I thought because it looked small, so it looked like knives, and I was like, that's like a whole bunch of collection of knives. My son collects knives, so
Yeah, so you couldn't you knew death was associated with what you were seeing. You just didn't know how. You were like, death, it's shiny, it must be a knife, you know? It's like, nah, it's not. Those are medals for winning practicing death.
That's awesome. So like, did you grow up like watching like kung fu flicks and stuff like me? Or was this something that you just found like, I guess, as you got older, it was more meditative or made it to, you know?
No, man. Martial arts has been a large part of my life, my whole entire life. You know, yes, I did grow up watching kung fu flicks every Saturday. Namaste.
Yeah.
And then I started doing judo when I was a pretty young kid. So I've always, that's one of the things that I identify myself with. You know, if you ask me what I am, it's like I'm a comedian and I'm a martial artist. Well, I should probably say father first.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, I'm not gay, so I'm a comedian and a martial artist.
Yeah, you have to have that, you know, there's that, you know, that guess that, you know, they say God, country, you know, whatever that your top three is. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like God, country, family. I mean, but you know, after, you know, but that's like, you know, that's like the order of things that I love, right?
Yeah. But
in the order of things in which I identify myself with, it's like, yeah, humor, death, humor. I'm a funny dad.
Well, at least you can protect your kids, like, because you know that's important. If you know how to kill somebody at any moment and tell them a joke, that's great. Because
yeah, man, my whole family does jujitsu too. Like I'm not even gonna lie to you. Those are all medals between my wife and my son.
Oh wow! Oh, I thought that was all you too. Wow.
Let me see if I can show you.
Oh wow! Look, there's even more. Oh yeah, I lost your audio for a second. I hear you.
Oh, wait. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right, now you see there's like one. See that little guy right in the. Let me see if I can point to it. Right there.
Yeah, right in the center.
That's mine. Like all these on the bottom row, those are all my sons, and then the rest of them, other than my one right over there, other than that little guy, the rest of them are my wife's.
Wow, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool. So you guys all share that. That's an awesome thing to do because you guys are all, you know, I'm sure you guys all practice it every day together. And
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we spend a lot of time with each other. Not just at jiu-jitsu, but because of jiu-jitsu, period. And it also kind of gives you, as a family, a common language to understand things through, which is pretty neat. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's super dope. So as far as like comedy, how long have you been doing comedy?
Geez, since 2004. So.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, like 16 years.
So what made you start like performing?
Well, I mean, I always wanted to try stand-up comedy. You know, from seeing Eddie Murphy do it is, you know, what made me want to do it. But I like making people feel good.
Yeah.
Right? Which is kind of the best way to get into comedy. A lot of these dipshits that get into comedy because they think they're funny.
Yeah.
know?
No, they laugh at
And
their own material basically, and no one else is laugh because they think
yeah, you know, and it's like they're not learning the whole process. The whole process is being able to make people laugh, not prove that you're funny. So when you get up on stage and you're not making people laugh, like, you don't blame the audience. Like,
Yeah.
you're the one that should be making them laugh. Like, they don't owe you laughter, you know? So it really is about the process that you learn, or like your learning curve is going to be a lot faster when your goal is to make people feel good and have a good time than when you're like, I'm going to prove that I'm funny. You know, it's just a different learning curve.
Yeah, I think too the energy. Like I think like a lot of comics we get addicted to it, so we're just it's just about us being funnier and funnier and just getting funnier. And then there's some people that are in it for fame, and then there's everybody has these different little I guess motives of why they're there. Somebody might just be there just for girls. It's whatever their reason is. This is why they do comedy, but it's like the ones like us that just keep doing it for years on end. And you're like, for whatever reason, we just seem like maniacs. We're like, why do we keep putting ourselves through this and keep telling jokes to these audiences? It's just something that we love for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I got super lucky. Like, my story in comedy isn't necessarily a common one. The second time I was on stage, I got booked to do, well, actually, technically the third time that I was on stage, I started getting booked for feature work. So I've been kind of working as a comedian almost as soon as I started.
Yeah, that is different. That's way different. Like but when you like talk about like Eddie Murphy though, like being like inspiration, like that's something like even for me, like that's the same thing. I saw Beverly Hills Cop as a kid, and I was like, I didn't know what he was doing, but I wanted to do that. You know what I mean? And even watching like SNL as a kid too. My dad, well, he would watch it. I would try to stay up to watch it and fall asleep, but I would see a piece of a skit here and there, and yeah, he was definitely somebody to look up to for our generation as a comic. Especially seeing someone that looked more like us, just that's doing something like that. You know what I mean? Like it was great. It was great. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. It opened a lot of doors, man. So it's so that I think that's the true inspiration right there, Eddie. Even to this day, man. I haven't met Eddie, and I would love to meet Eddie. I hear he's still the funniest person in the room. That's why I hear from other comics that have met him. I'm sure he is. Because he hasn't done.
I mean, we'll see what he is in the room with me, though.
Yeah.
We can all, like, there are definitely levels to what's going on stage, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Like, no doubt about that. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm better than Eddie Murphy on stage, although I haven't seen him perform in a while, and I'm pretty good.
What I mean.
So,
yeah.
But like, as far as like being in a room and being funny, I mean, if you're funnier than me, you're gonna have to prove it, dog. Like, let's see it. Let's see it. Like, I'm one of the, like, I'll tell you this, like joke for joke, all, like, as far as, again, when we're talking about off stage, like, I don't want to ever do anything or say anything to discredit the fact that stand-up comedy is a craft, and there are different levels of having crafted that, right?
Yeah.
But just dude, off stage, funny for funny. I'm one of the funniest people on this planet. For sure.
I agree, man. And I think that's what, like, comics, so we push each other, right? So like, if you're on a show with other comics that are funny, you like, nah, man, I ain't gonna let him be funnier than me tonight. And that's what I mean. Like, you want to get funnier. It's just this weird.
Yeah, I don't even compare myself to other comics like that, because I feel like I established the bar. Like, I mean, what I'm doing is it's just like, I don't care. I don't care. Somebody once said, like, I look at it like this, like funny only, a rising tide raises all ships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody funnier than me shows up into the room, they just showed me how to be funnier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if they're funnier than me. I will raise up to that and I will exceed that new level of what it means to be funny. Like, I feel very confident saying that. Like, you put me anywhere with anybody, I will definitely still be one of the funniest people in every room with any combination of comedians I'm in there with.
That's dope. And I feel like we all have that kind of like arrogance, if that makes sense. Like, as far as with comedy, like, I think we do a lot of that ego. As far as like, I can hold my own with everybody in the room, and I think that's dope. They always be like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I love about comedy. That energy, man. Like,
yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. I mean, I've always been a pretty confident person, so like, stand-up comedy is a great outlet for that for me.
Yeah. And then you said, well, you like, I saw the medals there. You talk about you do jujitsu. I'm like, what? So and that's so when you start doing that, how old were you when you like?
Oh, so I mean, when I started doing judo, I was a kid. So I was doing judo since I was like 9, 10. And then as far as doing the actual art of jujitsu solo as a separate art, I've been doing that for a little less than 2 years.
Okay. So, but that's still your whole life. You know, is dedicated to that art form is just amazing. It's a craft, and you see how that progression is, and you get to appreciate that progression. Like you were saying, even with comedy, it's the same thing. When you're writing and stuff, how do you write? How is your writing process? Do you write as you perform? Because I know some people do, and then other people actually write it, and then take it to the stage. How's your process?
Yeah, I do it all, man. Like, I do it all. Like I was a person that was very fortunate. Like I said, I started doing martial arts when I was a little kid. I was a pretty highly competitive athlete for a very long time, and I started when I was a little kid as well. So I have always been in this place where you don't block out anywhere where positive information can be coming from. So what I mean by that, so if I'm walking down the street, and I was a high jumper, right? And if I'm in Pottstown where I grew up, and like people have been seeing me in the newspapers, and somebody comes up to me, like maybe he's homeless, maybe he's out on the street, or a drug addict that I know, and he's like, hey, when you're going over the bar, you got to notice you need to do this a little more. Like I'm not gonna be like, what the fuck does he know, right? I'm gonna look at that and like, okay, what is he trying to communicate to me that I'm doing wrong? And I'll take that. I take everything in. So that's the same thing as far as my creative process goes. I don't put any restraints on how I have to create in any moment. So sometimes it'll be on stage. I'll come up with a joke. A lot of the material that I've been doing recently comes from my podcast, Two Jack Bros, BAM. But then also, lived experience. Like I'm out there, again, I have the confidence to say and do whatever I want in public. Like I'm not out there trying to be a dick, but I also know if things get physical, I'll be okay. And so I am out there. Like when I say on stage, like I said this to a person and then this happened, like I'm not lying. Like I'm not one of those people that walk away from the situation and go, oh, I could have said this, that would be funny, and write that down. It's like I'm in the moment saying this shit because I'm socially autistic. And then I realize later on, it's like, oh shit, that was funny. Or I'll tell my wife about it and she's like, you are a fucking maniac. I'm like, okay, I gotta write that down. It's like, so yeah, it's a lot of lived experience. And then sometimes, I'll sit down and start writing and see what comes of it.
Yeah. So because of the quarantine, specifically, so I don't know if I don't know if you were working the whole time. I know I wasn't working like a lot of other people, but I feel like it's made me socially awkward. Do you feel like that at all? Like as far as like the reopening and just kind of being around people?
Yeah, not really. So I had, a pretty cool opportunity. I had a podcast that was like starting to grow right before quarantine. It was like really spiking. Mm-hmm. So during quarantine, I had a lot of opportunity to like interface with fans and kind of do comedy that way. Okay. So, I was still able to interact with fans and still do comedy. And then, being guests on different podcasts that I was doing, that keeps you sharp as well. Like you said, like now I'm in a room riffing with comedians technically. Yeah. Right. So, and then there's also some, coincidentally, there are other families, there are other comedians that have families that also do jujitsu and they just happen to train at my gym. So we kind of quarantined with them as well. Like they were part of our quarantine network. So I was still around like funny comedians, interacting, riffing, creating, doing all that stuff. This is what I do for a living, man. I can't. Yeah. Well, I got to figure out a way. I can't sit down and collect moss because then, make no mistake, my kids still eat. My wife has a way better job than I do, but it's what we eat. You know what I mean? Like my paychecks determine what we eat. Maybe I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's gonna get us to vacation. My money gets us to vacations and shit.
That's dope. Yeah. It's good even in any relationship, like I know how my wife and I are, like we both like have our own like careers, but we're able to bring something to the table. Like some people like you know, it's not, it's one sided in some relationships. So it's good when you have that, you know, that balance. Definitely is. So that's dope. That's definitely dope.
Yeah, no, we just flow, man. She's a lifetime athlete too. Again, like, and that's, you know, that's what's super important. Like we just communicate well. Like we know how to communicate with each other. We know how to talk to each other. We know that, like, if somebody needs to say, hey, you need to get your shit together, that's not me saying anything bad about you, but in this moment, we need you to buckle up and get your shit together. Like we kind of get that language, you know. So it's easy to kind of ride through life with somebody where you don't have to walk on eggshells with how you talk to them.
Oh yeah, that's more effective. You know, when you're just being a straight shooter, like you're just like, yo, this is it, you know, and then there's no, it's just cutting, it's like cutting the fat right away. You're just getting right to it. So what the pod you guys get like come together with the podcast, like how that started?
Oh, well, so we've been together for like 21 years, and we started a podcast years ago. I mean, like a good, I want to say almost 10 years ago when we were still living in Atlanta.
Okay.
So we started a podcast then. Podcasts weren't anything at that point. You know, they were something that people thought were going to be nothing still. And man, I wish we would have kept that one up. But so, you know, we stopped and then started another little web thing and then stopped. And then I wanted to really make a serious go at podcasting, but then she didn't want to do it with me. So I started it with another person. Sorry, my bad. I'm spreading COVID. But so I started it with another person, and you know, he just like his schedule was flaking, and honestly, it was like I wanted it to be doing it with my wife the whole time. Anyway, just because we have so much fun together, and we you know, when we're doing stuff, even just in life, you know, just because we know we can always be honest with each other, that things will get taken care of. Like I can trust her, she can trust me. I'm not going to flake on things. She's not going to flake on things. That allows us to keep everything really light around the house, you know, because we're both dependable people.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't have to like be all concerned. Like, what if she doesn't pull her weight? Or like, she's not like, what if he doesn't pull? It's like, we just have fun, man. We just take care of all of our fucking business and then just have fun. So I wanted that atmosphere to be on the podcast. And that's basically what we do. I mean, we just look at it as us, you know, solving the world's problems with the most ridiculous takes possible. Yeah. And seeing what we can get out of it.
That's dope. And so you, like you were saying, like you get to interact with the fans a lot. So I mean, I haven't really gotten into Patreon, so I know you use Patreon for that.
Yeah.
So how's that been working out? Like, because the podcast is what, how old is the podcast now? Like at least a year, right?
Like 2 years.
Oh, it's 2 years. Okay.
2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's Patreon's good. You know, it's growing incrementally every week, which is all you can ask for.
Yeah.
You know, it's good. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling knowing that people are willing to put their money on your name, you know, on your ability to produce high quality content for them. That feels good. And then it just makes you work harder. So it's you know, even if you have 1, 2, 3 people on your Patreon, it's like those are 3 people that want to pay for you to make them laugh. So, you know, go hard for them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And with me, I have a Patreon like with for this show, but I haven't really used it. I just keep like I don't know why I just kind of feel like I have to keep giving it out for free, and I just give it out for free everywhere, every platform, and I just make sure it's out there. That's. For right now, that's what I guess this is what the universe is telling me to do. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do it do it when you're comfortable, right? So, you know, build what you think is a comfortable enough fan base where you can make that plunge, because you're only going to get a small percentage. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, you might have, you know, a couple thousand listeners a week, but then when you go to Patreon, you're only going to get a small percentage of that of those listeners that are going to go to Patreon with you. Okay. So, you know, you want to think around 15% or so.
Okay, that's not bad. I mean, that's especially if you're building off, because everything's still like it's about consistency, which we both understand that. You know, it's like just showing up and just doing it, and that consistency and those algorithms. You know, and I mean that's not really algorithms with Patreon, but yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's just that consistency though. Still.
Yeah, it matters. Consistency matters.
Yeah. So what's your plans like now that everything's been like reopened? Have you done like any outdoor shows so far?
Yeah, I've done some outdoor shows. I kind of declined all of the Zoom shows. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But outdoor shows I've done some drive-in theater shows,
Oh,
which
dope.
have been pretty cool. Where like they have us on stage, and then in the background they have the big drive-in theater, so they project you in real time on the screen as well, which
Okay.
is cool because like people are now watching a movie of you, which is sick.
Yeah. That's really sick. And then they're in their car watching it too.
They
Sounds
are,
different
and it's well, luckily the shows that I did, some people got out, like the people in the front row got out of their cars, so I was able to also hear laughter. But yeah, they work on different techniques of like having people beep their horn instead of laughing or flick their lights. We like the two shows that I went with were flick lights instead of beeping the horn.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's better because, well, yeah, because if you hear the horns, that would probably start to kill your ears after a while, right? I mean,
I wouldn't know. I didn't experience it.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah. No, but that's dope though, man. That's really dope. I hear you about the Zoom shows though. Like I tried it and it just, I don't, I feel like there's something lost there. I don't, and I do give kudos to the comics that have actually been going hard doing it and gotten that muscle to do that type of show, for sure. Because it's I don't think it's going to go away as things open up. I think it'll be some form of comedy that we continue to have, but not everyone's going to be obviously doing it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll do it. I'm not gonna. I didn't want to be doing it when that was the only comedy to be done. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Now that I'm on stages, I'm on physical stages, and I'm in front of people again, I'll do a Zoom show. I mean, I'm not against it. It's just I just didn't. I was in a position where I didn't have to do those shows.
Yeah.
So I didn't do them.
Yeah, I just found it so like it was just so weird. Like but like I said, I give kudos to the comments. Like I watched Rachel's show a few times, and I always thought that she put on a really good Zoom show. But it was just it's definitely different to have to perform like in this setting. Like I think it's cool like doing it like we're doing like a podcast. Or you're talking to somebody one-on-one, or even if you have like up to like 4 guests or so. But if it's just like straight you telling jokes to somebody, it's just weird. I don't know. Because we're sitting down, different energy. Like I like to stand up. I think every time I try to do it, I stood up. I don't know. It just felt right for me to stand up, if that makes sense.
I mean, to each his own. I mean, dude, I could lay down Cleopatra style and still deliver my jokes. I don't give a fuck, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, I'm built for this. Like, this is like, I think this is the only thing that I was being conditioned for in life. Like this is it. Like I have no, I mean, like, yeah, I'm skilled in a lot of things, but there is no other thing that I am as passionately talented at, So it's, I mean, yeah, it's, again, I'm never, dude, I really truly believe I can solve every problem. So you give me a show situation, I don't care what it is, I will do okay. I do not care what the circumstances are. I don't care what happened to any comedian before me. I will do okay. I will figure it out.
But that's
right?
the thing about you. Like when we've had conversations like outside of comedy, obviously, that's something I've noticed. That you can figure something out. You're very like intuitive dude. Like you just a real smart guy. Like you'll say something that's kind of like it seems like it's left field, but it's like quick but it also seems like you were thinking deep about it. And I'm like, how did he do that fast? Like, but
yeah, man, I tell you what, dude, it's a lifetime of like doing like martial arts. So judo is a martial art that kind of puts you close to what samurais are. So there's something called the Bushido Code, and that's basically the code under which samurai conduct themselves. Okay. And in Bushido, one of the arts of Bushido is judo, right? So the judo instructor that I had was really into samurai. So I grew up thinking about all the things that samurai would be. I'm like in my mind battling 1,000 samurai at a time. You know what I mean? So like being on like when like I finally picked something to do, and it's like life or death. I would have nightmares as a kid, like with people like coming to kill me, and then me having to make a decision between fleeing with people where like I would weigh down the horse and make us a target, or letting my family go and then me staying and like causing a diversion to give them some space. And then every time I would make that decision to like let them ride and then me stay, I would like wake up right? But that's what my mind is conditioned for. I condition my mind for shit like that my whole entire life. And then the thing that I pick in life is just getting on stage and telling jokes. Like that's it. Yeah. That's it. Like I'm conditioned for life or death, dude. Life or death. Within insurmountable circumstances where I know that I'm not going to win, but I am prepared to fight until my dying breath, and then I'm doing stand up. So it's like it's easy to me. Like this is not like I don't care. So what? I bomb. So what?
Yeah, that doesn't.
So what?
So what? That doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So I'm like I'm not afraid to take risks. I'm not afraid to go with what I believe is funny. I'm not afraid to be in the moment, and I'm not concerned about whether or not people come to my moment or not. I'm going to have my moment. This is my moment, and I'm going to entertain the people that are vibing with this moment. Yeah.
See, you did it again. That's how I just said the deepness. Quick. You see that? The vibe.
Yeah. Well, I'm a philosopher, dude. I'm like, that's another thing. Like communication and philosophy are like the only things that I care about. I'll like as far as like the things that I read, like my academic pursuits were mostly that. I mean, I got a degree in economics, but communications didn't really seem like a real major at the time. But economics is a science that kind of helps you decipher a lot of things.
Yeah, I actually went to school originally for communications, and I dropped out before I was my freshman year when I dropped out too. Because I started getting internships in radio. So I all the people I worked at radio didn't go to school. So I was like, why am I going to school if they're already here and I'm already here? But when I look back on it in retrospect, it still was something I built upon. Obviously, it wasn't something I forgot, even though I didn't continue to pursue that as a degree when I went back. But I think a lot of it too is what you read along the way too, because it's not just what you go to school for, is what you're, what's on your shelf. So like, what are you reading right now?
Oh, well, I just finished, I read a lot about warrior cultures as well. So I just finished the book Empire of the Summer Moon, which is about Comanches. Oh, and it's pretty sick. And then I'm reading a book about the Zulus, like the rise and the fall of the Zulus. Mm-hmm. And then the Story of Human Language is a book about how language progressed throughout history. So I always have like at least one book about communication in rotation.
Okay. So you do at least 3 books in rotation there, like at a time or more. Like I know I have like at least like 4 or 5 books in rotation at a time.
I like to keep 3, mm-hmm. Just because it's easier for me to finish them. If I don't want to get too distracted and have too many to go between, I want to be able to get these, like smash these books out of here too,
Yeah. I think that no, I don't do that. I think sometimes there's times where I run through them faster, and then it depends on what's happening in my life. But I always have at least that many running around at one point. And now that there's audiobooks, double it. Like, because I always have some type of audiobook too.
Yeah.
But audiobooks are weird sometimes, because like I've been listening to some of these ones that are like plays. I don't know if you heard those. Like they had like this one with John Cena and stuff like that. It's just I don't know, they're different. I do find them interesting though. It's like listening to a movie.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where some people they make books specifically just for audiobooks.
Yeah.
So when you do that, you can really play with the medium. You can really interact with the fact that this is audible. This is something that people are going to be listening to. So yeah, I mean I like it. I like that type of creativity. I like anything that sinks the information in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what. Well, I mean, my bad. I don't mean to interrupt, but like that's one of the things we do on the podcast is we there is a segment where we usually teach something that we learn through like the books that we're reading and the things that we're studying. So we always, relay that information, but we always recontextualize it in a ridiculous, silly way.
Okay.
Which, dude, it makes it a lot easier to remember, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was actually so. You didn't cut me off. It was actually like the works, because I was actually going to bring up the podcast. So you start talking about the podcast. So, you guys have you don't normally do guests as that much. That's usually just you guys having a conversation, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you guys like pick these topics that you talk about, like, do you have a pre-conversation, or you guys just go right live and just go for it when you do it?
Yeah, we go live. We just go live with it.
Okay.
You know, because you know it's our podcast is a chemistry-based podcast, right? So a lot of the people that are listening to it are listening to the way, like they like the way we interact with each other. So we just interact with each other. We just have, you know, we just keep it genuine. Like it is good to from you know a due diligence standpoint. I always have a list of things that I would want to talk about if we needed things to talk about. Okay. And then sometimes even if we're on a roll, it's like I gotta get this thing on this list because this, you know, I want to talk about this. So, but for the most part, yeah, we're just ripping.
Oh, that's dope. So I said, so you can't tell sometimes. That's why, you know, you ask that question because you're like, you couldn't be prepared. Because sometimes someone, you know, even as a comic, you could look like you're riffing and you're really not. You're just, it's all so super polished.
Yeah. We have fun, man. It's like, yeah, it's fun. We have a good time. And I see how people could think that we had stuff prepared, but I also see how people could think we had nothing prepared.
Yeah.
You know, like I see how it could go both ways. Yeah. And I think people that think that it's prepared, like they like the idea, like it makes them think we're smarter because it makes them think that this chaotic shit was all planned. Yeah. And like, I'll take that compliment all day long, you know, like all day long. Like, I'm not going to correct you. If that's what you think it is, I'll let you think that's what it is. Right. And then there's the other people that are like, oh, they're just making this, they're so creative and funny. It's like, all right, you know, I'll take that too. I'm not going to argue with you. Yeah. You know, like when people start creating your legend, you just let them run with it. Never correct your legend.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's like my grandfather always used to tell me, if somebody gives you money, you take the money. You just take the money. There's no questions asked. And it's a funny thing that we keep saying to each other over the years, because when somebody offers somebody, like, well, you're not going to take that, are you? Like, yeah. My grandfather said, take the money. Always take the money.
That's good money. Nothing wrong with that money. It's good money.
Yeah, exactly. So where can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, so you know, Two Jack Bros is the podcast, but the social media is Sidney Gantt, SIDNEYGANTT on everything. So you just type that in and you'll find me.
Yeah, it's so easy because some people, you know, they have like 3 different handles and like whatever, and you're like, why are you making it so difficult for yourself? Like,
well, some people have common names, or some people have like even, you know, like you know, that might not even be a common name per se, like on the grand scheme, but like might be common like in your neighborhood or in your culture. You know, so it's like for example, I have an uncle named T-Bone, right? No fucking way he's gonna be the first T-Bone on anything.
Oh, nothing. It's done.
You know what I mean? He's gonna be T-Bone 7000, like, you know, like he's up there. He's gonna be up there. So like Sidney Gantt, there's only one other Sidney Gantt out there, and he also black, by the way. He's the other Sidney Gantt out there. He's also black, and he would not accept my friend request. So that's how that works.
That's messed up. Why would?
Well, I mean, it makes sense. All Sidney Gants are Highlanders. There can only be one. He's probably tracking me right now.
Yeah, I'm telling you, because I keep looking back and I'm like, those are knives. Those are definitely knives. It's my eyes.
Listen, everything I touch is a knife. Dude, everything. I'm a knife. You know what I mean? Dude, it's like, yeah, I make knives out of everything. That's what being a martial artist is. It's whatever the weapon is acquired in that situation, that's the weapon you are.
Again, just got deep. You see how he just
Yeah, but that so somebody, I just got recommended for a couple of things that worked out pretty nicely, and you know, like the guy sent me the conversation back that they were having where they were thinking for the hookup and everything, and like the guy said something that was like it was very complimentary, but it was like, yeah, that's what I aim for. But he was like, you know, I was like, you know, thank you for recommending Sidney for that thing. I was like, oh, no problem, man. Sidney is funny in every circumstance. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's what it is, dude. It's like whatever the circumstance it is, like you can, whatever the parameters are, whatever the rules are, I will figure out how to be funny. You know, it's like, I am a human weapon. I'm a human weapon of like knives and hilarity, dude. Yeah. It's like, I'll cut up and I'll cut you up and I'll cut up with you, you know?
Yeah. That's dope, man. Well, look, I'm happy I had you on, man, and we got a chance to finally chop it up here. So
absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you for thinking of me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. But how can I not, man? That's what I'm saying. Like you know what I'm saying. So make some noise for Sidney Gantt, ladies and gentlemen.